state is a fiercely competitive and ruthless society.
And now, After Hours with Rixx Javix.
Welcome to After Hours with Rixx Javix. I'm your host, Rixx Javix, coming to you from the darkest reaches of low-security space, live from the Stay Frosty Lounge. Grab a cold drink, light a cigar, and let's talk. Joining us in the lounge today is Niden, Editor-in-Chief of Crossing Zebras. Welcome to After Hours, Niden.
Hi, guys. I'm Niden. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Crossing Zebras. I'm a low-sex scumbag, and some would call me an Eve artist, I guess.
Yeah. Low-sex scumbag on the FW side, though, right? Not on the pirating side.
Well, depends on who you ask. I mean, really,
depends on who you ask.
Like, I'm in faction warfare, I'm in Gal Mill, but there's no difference between me and your local regular like low-sec pirate. I don't do anything different. I don't think I've run a Plex in like a year and a half or something like that.
Oh, really? So you're just in there for the... So why aren't you in a pirate corporation then, instead of being flying the country flag?
That is a good question. One that I've asked myself several times. I've considered several times leaving Gal Mill actually and just flying with some regular...
Some YAR guys like us.
Some YAR guys. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future, but something I've considered, since I don't really do faction warfare anymore. The only reason I've stayed in Gal Mill because all my friends are there.
Right.
It's just good people I've flown with for years, so that's the reason. That's the reason I'm in Gal Mill, not really because of the mechanics side of things. Like I don't really care that much about faction warfare itself anymore.
No passion for faction warfare, just because your buddies are there.
Well, no passion. I mean, I sort of understand why it's fun. Like, it's a good system. I like it. It's a good system. I think it's generated a lot of great content. It's just that I did it a lot, and I kind of got to the point where, I did that now. I sort of want to move on and do things a bit different, and switched up doctrines and went for the bigger ships, and don't really do the faction warfare thing anymore. Right. But I do understand the love for it. I think it's a really good thing in EVE. I think it's very engaging, good content for everybody.
Sure. I mean, have you flown in the Alliance tournament at all, or
no,
never? You don't have any interest in that, or?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure I'm not good enough. Second of all, it's a time thing. So to be able to fly in the AT, I mean, anybody can join the AT and just go ahead and fly without really putting in much effort. But I know myself. So since I'm not particularly good to begin with, what's going to happen is if I actually attempt to get in on the AT, what I'll do is I'll end up spending up way too much time training for it. Right. To sort of compensate for sucking at EVE, and probably won't get anywhere anyway. So no, probably. I mean, like, it's a bit too hardcore for me. Like, training for the AT, putting in that much time for this one event. I don't think I'm not cut out for the AT, really.
No, okay. I mean, yeah, it is. I know our alliance has been. Our guys have been formulating doctrines for 3 or 4 months now already, and we've had. I think we've had like 8 or 9 practices already. We have another one coming up today. That I might not be able to make it, but so it's time intensive. A lot of PIFA, a lot of fits and practice schedules. Almost every weekend between now and October we'll be practicing both days. On Saturdays and Sundays. So yeah. It's intense.
It's intense. It's very intense. Unlike
it is.
I completely get that. It's very embroiling, very interesting. Getting really nitty gritty into the fits, into your EFTs and your Pythons and all that. Right. And just theory crafting back and forth, and just honing your skills together with your friends. It is good.
Right.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just I just know I'll spend too much time on it, and I'll be angry with myself because I'm not doing it well. I'll just spend even on it.
Yeah. So you're that kind of guy then. If you get involved in something, you're just going to go too far, with it. I mean, still.
Here's what I need to do when I play Eve. I need to find stuff that naturally takes up a reasonable amount of time, which I can still do kind of well.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I'm a bit of a weekend warrior when it comes to Eve. I mean, I have a family. I have a full-time job. So most of my playing is during the weekends.
Right.
So I tend to play actually sit down and play maybe 2 days a week, and that'll be the weekends.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that used to be me when I first started. That was all I did. Well, it was just a few evenings here and there when the kids were asleep or whatever. But it's sadly for the last 3 years I've really had nothing else to do. So. And I sort of joke about that, but I'm still unemployed, so I have a little bit of extra time. But even that though, I haven't logged on, and other than to practice for the AT, I haven't logged on in a month. So but that was on purpose. Selling a house and doing other things, and just
you gotta prioritize. I mean, life's gonna be there, and life's gonna come first, or at least it should. So
and I think the longer you play, the more you realize too that every once in a while you just have to, take time off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something I've sort of come to grips with. And then previously, I mean, I've been playing Eve for altogether maybe 11 years or something, and I mean, I've not been active all of those years.
Right.
Put together, like a couple of those years, I wasn't even playing Eve. But instead of what I used to do is play really intensely for like a few months and then quit completely. And then like the last 3 or 4 years, what I've done instead is I play it with moderation, like just enough, but not too much. And it's been working out really well. I mean, this is the longest period I've played. It's almost 4 years now that I have not actually. I've not quit. I've been active that whole time.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think there's a balance that can be found. I mean, it's different for everybody, and depends on your age and what you're doing with your life. But I think all of us have to find that, and I think it's when that balance gets screwed up is when things go south. We get bitter, or we end up quitting or whatever. So finding the. So I'm doing something a little different this time. If you want to play along, I have 10 questions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can take a long time to answer these, or you can just quickly do it or whatever. But I have 10 questions. I'm going to start doing this. If it works, I don't know. So I'm making all this up as I go along. So
are you going to be doing like the same questions for people?
For everybody? No, I don't know. I don't think so. So it's not like Screen Actor, the Behind the Studios thing or whatever, where he asks the same one. What's your favorite curse word? I don't know. No, I sort of made this for you. So
okay, cool.
Okay, so first question is: a year from now, will we still be talking about goons?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, we will, because sort of goons have been put through the grinder.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
And I still think there's enough left coming out on the other side to keep them going. But I think the really big question is what kind of real estate will goons have in people's minds when it comes to Eve and the sort of political landscape out there, or just the meta landscape, so to speak, generally. I don't really know how that's going to turn out. It so much depends on what goons do with their leadership. It's too early to tell how they'll adapt and what they'll do, and mostly how people will react when goons do X, Y, or Z. Right? I mean, there's all kinds of talks that if the goons rise again, we'll just push them back down. But it's relative, right? It depends on in what way do they come back. Do they just take a couple of systems here and there and sort of keep it small and organized? Who knows?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with timing too, and whether people are still, I mean, if it's a year from now, I don't know that people will they still care, if they start doing something, will it just smack them back down, and will that be, perpetual, or will people care enough to do it?
I don't know. It's sort of what I think one of the main reasons that the war turned into such a brush fire is because of the speeches of the Mitanni, which were very sort of aggravating and
yeah,
they were,
to say the least,
a rallying flag for the enemies of the Imperium, so to speak, as he likes to put it. He sort of conjured that enemy. I mean, a lot of it was paid for, but the rest of it was all conjured up, and he helped make it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the paid for stuff, I think people overplay that. I think that the paid for stuff would not have been enough to have done what happened. I think that between Sion insulting the community on several occasions and the Mitanni saying things that he probably shouldn't have said, between those two things, it energized a lot of people that would not have been involved to begin otherwise. And I can speak personally because I know that our alliance got involved simply because of those things, and we probably wouldn't have cared one way or the other otherwise.
I think that's true for a lot of low-sec people as well. When the invasion of low-sec happened as well, you couple that with the speeches that were coming out of the Mitanni, that sort of people just lost interest in shooting each other, as we always have done, and sort of banded together just to fuck with goons.
It was like a perfect storm of bad decisions, that just led to it. I think. Yeah,
you got to think of it this way too. I mean, I'll get back to your actual question, but one thing I really want to say is that. You might say bad, but you might also say good. Like, if it wasn't for goons, if it wasn't for the Mitanni and everything that transpired, we wouldn't have had this. Like, the first half of 2016 has been really interesting, and goons and the Imperium are at the center of that. So if it wasn't for them and all the things that the Mitanni said and all the things that transpired, like the fucking, what's it called, the program?
The Viceroy program, right?
Viceroy program and all of that. If that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have had all the awesome content we've had, So yeah, it's bad for them in the end, but for Eve, it was amazing. It was great.
Yeah. It's always better to have an enemy than it is to not.
Anyway, getting back to your question is, will people be still be talking about guns? Yes. Historically speaking, yes, because we love like beating history to death, but if they'll be relevant anymore in the kind of way that we're used to traditionally,
I don't know.
I'm not that sure, man. I don't really see that happening.
Yeah, again. I agree. I agree with that. I think that they'll still be around. I don't think they're going to go the way of Bob and completely disappear, but I think their days of relevancy may be over.
I think it might be healthy for them as well, in a lot of ways, to sort of have a chance to build stuff up from the ground up, and sort of having learned from what they've done before. Now, there are some people in Goons who do not seem to change. Like, for example, I have no idea why. Like, for example, talking about the Mitanni again, but right. he has been very inflexible in the way he communicates outwards. Like, it's been the same talk no matter what's going on. Even if goons are getting completely pasted out there, he's still like communicating the same way, and that kind of thing isn't not only like it's filled its function. People are kind of tired of it. They're not really interested. Not even like listening to Mitanni just for the lols because he says something outrageous again. It's kind of, yeah, I've heard this before. I'm not really interested. Let me go away and do something else instead. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
So I assuming that goons managed to sort of change their course a little bit and their focus, both sort of militarily and diplomatically, then there's no telling where they could end up, what they could be doing. But they'll be around. They'll be doing something.
All right. Question number 2 is, why are the zebras crossing? Well, what is that about?
To get to the other side of the road.
To get to the other side. Simple, easy, right? All right. So you can only save one 07 show host, mimic or guard.
Oh, man.
I know. This is a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's philosophical, you know? I mean, on the one hand, you have Mimic, who is obviously a gorgeous human being. It's some kind of volcanic thing or something. I don't know.
Volcanic. Oh, that's...
Yeah, there's a lava flow, you know, it's an earthquake, a volcano. It's obviously a philosophical dilemma you've got yourself into here. You can only save one of them.
Wow.
I know. See, I don't know. I don't know what my answer to that one would be. I think, yeah. All right, so you're on a precipice of a volcano. You know, you can only save Mimic or a guard. Who's it going to be?
Man, I can't choose, so I guess they're both dying.
You're just going to let them both go. See,
Well, see, this is a moral question. Like that experiment. If there's a runaway train on a track.
Right.
There's 5 people lying on the track, and you find a lever which switches to another track, but on that track there's another person. Do you pull the lever or not? Your action will actually kill somebody, but you save 5 people. 5 people. Do you save the 5 people, but kill the other person? But do you do nothing?
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'll probably stand there thinking about it, and it'll be too late, and they're both die.
I'd save Mimic. It's the gallant thing to do, right? I mean, it's the honorable. You got to say women and children first, right?
Yeah, there you go. But
I don't know. That's very old school, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know.
Of course, guard is a lot lighter, so
yeah, maybe you can carry him on your shoulder.
right. He's very small, so maybe there's a way. Maybe, all right.
I could never do that. I could never do that to God.
All right. Question number 4: should we have hats in Eve?
I'm going to say yes because it's the politically correct answer. You know, in this podcast.
Is it gotten that bad that it's a politically correct answer?
I don't really.
You don't care. I don't care.
No, wait, hold on. Here's the actual answer. Of course, we should have fucking hats. We should have all the things. I mean,
right. Exactly.
We should have the avatars walking in stations, walking on planets.
Yes, please.
We should have the hats. We should have everything, all of it.
I want to go down into orbit, you know, and land on a planet. How cool would that be? You know,
super fucking cool.
Why shouldn't I have that?
I'm kind of my wet dream for Eve's future is that they integrate Eve directly with the first-person shooter Nova.
Right.
And use the same engine and allow like capsuleers to just switch over to that client and get into a system and do things, or a planet rather, and do things.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with instances like that being introduced into the game. I think that, you know, if walking in stations is an instance where you have to transfer to a different server or something, I'm cool with that. I don't think that the Eve has to remain on a single shared server its entire history. Like there should be, there could be points where that would be acceptable, like getting out on a planet or going inside of a spaceship to shoot people or something.
Yeah, I mean, you still have points of contact. Like you can have like shared chat and
absolutely
some other points of contact between the servers handling it.
Right.
But I think they should use it to allow capsuleers to switch over and go down.
Right. It's kind of think of Eve as the center point to a much larger universe, right?
So yeah, that's the long-winded answer to the hats question.
All right. So CCP makes the Machariel an industrial ship. Do you quit playing?
Yes.
Just no question.
Definitely.
Niden without a Machariel is not going to happen, right?
Well, it's not going to happen. And second of all, what kind of company would do
something horrible like that, right?
That just shows that they would have like no fiber, and I wouldn't want to give them my money anymore.
They've completely lost it at that point, right? Yeah. That would be. I think I might quit too.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I can't support that sort of thing. All right. So, what is the very best thing about Reddit?
Best thing about Reddit.
Yeah, see, it's too easy to ask what's the worst thing about Reddit because that's obvious.
That's obvious. Well, the best thing about Reddit is that a person with a limited amount of time, like myself, that has, like I said, I have a job, I have a family.
Right.
I try to run CZ and God forbid, once in a blue moon, I have actually time to play. When I want a quick recap of the sort of the pulse of the community, I can get that quickly and efficiently on Reddit, and often with as little sort of BS as possible. I suppose that's also has to do with being used to reading Reddit and knowing how to automatically filter out stuff that you're not interested in.
Right.
I'll know a shitpost when I see one.
Yes.
And I know the quality posters, and I know where to look. So I can really quickly, like within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, I can get a good idea of where the community is at right now, and just and move on from there. So that is the best part of Reddit. And then if you do something good, if you do something actually good, you get recognition for it. I like that about Reddit.
Right. It's immediate. It's a kind of a feedback loop in a way, and it serves that way. I know for me personally, I stayed off of Reddit for probably 6 years, and I only did a few things here and there or commented on something that directly applied to me. But for the last 3 years, I've been, trying to, get on there more, and I find it helps because, and I wonder if you find this too, when you do something like positive, you don't really get a lot of feedback for it. It's only when you do something negative or you're involved in something negative that you get tons of feedback about it.
Well,
so,
the sort of the nature of Reddit is that way.
Yes.
It's like scandal gets a lot of attention, just the same way as a lot of other kinds of media, like
absolutely,
TV, press, and all that. So that's not really anything new. But yeah, it is a problem when you're doing something just simply positive without any kind of nothing really explosive about it. Then a lot of people come to Reddit to get the juicy drama, their drama fix for the day. And if they don't see that in your post, they'll just move on until they see the next, some fucking idiotic AMA with with a bunch of shit posts or some drama, like the latest drama of somebody left the Imperium or whatever. They'll move on to that and they'll get involved with that kind of content. So that is one of the downsides to Reddit, I suppose. But you can also define. You have to what is good. Like if you make good content that is engaging and fun for people to watch,
right,
you generally get the attention.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're doing, really.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. All right. So, and I agree. I think that is it's a good sounding board, I think. What's the most important third-party app for Eve?
Well, Zkill.
Oh, a lot of Zkill. Got to be, right?
Yeah, Zkill. I mean, Zkill is my first stop. When I just talk to somebody combos me that I don't know, the first thing I'll do is I'll check their kill board before
go
I
to Zkill.
Yeah, it's a reflex nowadays, and most of the time, I use Pirate's Little Helper, if you know what that is.
I do, absolutely, yes.
That's my second favorite tool, but that connects to Zkill as well. So it's kind of, for me, it's an extension of Zkill.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's no question about it. I mean, personally, I would take Project Jeremy, of course, and that's just for me, but that's not in a bigger picture kind of way. I mean, that doesn't affect hardly anybody other than you and me and maybe a handful of other people. But I'd put it this way. The biggest footprint in my Eve life comes from Zkill, but Jeremy is one of those things that, without Jeremy, I wouldn't have been able to make the artwork I do at all. So it is for me specifically, personally, it's a very crucial thing, but it's not. Yes.
It's, if you just compare what I use the most, I use Zkill. Every time I log on, I don't use Jeremy every time I log on. I use Jeremy when I'm actually doing something artistic.
Else, right. Yeah, exactly.
But it's vital for a very, a small, like you said, for a small crowd, for people who make art, it's vital. It's vital.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would do without it, honestly. I mean, be back to taking screenshots in game, I guess. And
just cutting them out. Fucking ages.
Yeah. And that is very, very difficult because probably half of the things I do would be impossible.
Yeah.
Well, especially the spaceship posters, the series, which is pretty much done now. I'm not doing any more of those, but some of those ships I took probably 30 or 40 reference shots in order to get right, and it would be impossible to do that in game. So,
but it's just a bit of a shout out for people listening. Go and check, like Google, Kaldari Prime Pony Club.
Yep.
And go check Jeremy out. Just play around with it a little bit. It's an amazing, like in-browser rendering tool. Go check it out.
Yeah, and I hate to do this when Niden's on because he's a Crossing Zebras guy, but go on Eve NT and check out Creator Studio too, and give Tiamber some of your support so that he can get that sucker done.
Yeah, no, I'll support that 100%.
Yeah, because he's up to some really cool stuff, and I'm very anxious to get that new stuff going. Yeah,
if you look at the new features that Tiamber has planned working with the Eve NT, I think it's an amazing project, and I really hope he gets all that stuff done and gets the support he needs to get it sorted, because it's a lot of work, guys, and a lot of his personal time and money is going to this because he needs the hardware to sit and work on this, figure shit out.
All right, so it's obvious, and everybody knows, Niden is synonymous with Machariels, especially now after your most recent video, which was awesome, by the way. So more of that. Yep.
That went a lot better than I thought it would, actually.
Yeah. See, all your worries were for nothing, so it went over very well, and you certainly have attached yourself to the Machariel. But if you had to choose a frigate to fly, which one would it be?
Dramiel.
No question. You didn't hesitate. Dramiel.
Dramiel is where is my go-to ship. If you look at Ezekiel and look at my top ships, I think Dramiel is number 3.
Yeah. So Dramiel over Daredevil.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love the Dramiel. I mean, I used to fly the shit out of Dramiel.
Well, they used to be op too, though. We all used to fly the shit out of Dramiels, but they're not as op now. So
I flew Dramiels after they were cool.
You flew that.
After they got nerfed, I still flew Dramiels, and I was, really pushing the limits as to how well I could fit them. Not that I'm particularly good at PvP. I'm just okay at PvP, but I was really putting a lot on these fits.
Right.
And it really didn't bother me to spend 100 million ISK on a
Dramiel. No, and they're awesome ships. Don't get me wrong; they're one of my favorites too. So,
and there's something magical about just going at those insane speeds. I just love that.
Yeah, and a dual prop Dramiel is just awesome. It's so much fun. Yeah,
it's so dynamic too. You can get into all kinds of really cool and interesting situations with a dual prop Dramiel.
Yes.
So some of my best experiences in Eve were sitting in a Dramiel back in the day. So yeah, I've got a lot of love for that ship.
Yeah, it's my top 3. It's for me, it's Comet, Daredevil, Dramiel. So those are my 3.
Yep.
And then right after that would be Tristan, but that's just for fun. So but Tristan's just great for a lot of multi-purpose reasons. But yeah.
Tristan. I don't actually like the Tristan, but it's so good.
It's such a great ship.
Versatile and strong, and just a strong platform.
Yeah.
That you can't ignore it. If you're doing frigate PvP, you sort of have to give it a go.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's cheap, and even fitting it is cheap. It's really kind of hard to fit it, expensive. So it's one of those I just wanted to go play, and I'm not going to be serious. So
yeah.
So what's the worst thing about being space famous?
Getting primaried.
Getting primaried. That would be mine too. Yeah.
Getting primaried and
not being
getting convoed a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Time to talk to people, and then you stressed out, so you don't have time to talk to people, and you come off as a dick because you're just ignoring people, and people think you're being a dick. Whereas actually, I'm just not super good at multitasking, so I have to ignore you.
Yeah, it's tough when every system you fly. And for me, as being a pirate, one of the worst things is flying into a new system and having people in local say hello, and I don't really want people to know I'm there. But the worst thing for me though has been the loss of being able to participate in events. I've tried, and it just doesn't work out for me.
Well, people are just going to shoot you first because Because, oh, look, there's Rixx. I want to Rixx.
Exactly, yeah. It's just,
cool.
It's bad. I really try. I love being in events, and I've always enjoyed putting them together and having them, and but I really just can't do it anymore, except for an alt. I have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need an alt to do these things.
But it's not the same then.
Yeah, no, I know it's not the same thing. I hear you. I get you.
All right, so last question of the 10. Star Wars or Star Trek?
That's a silly question. Star Wars, of course.
Star Wars, of course. All right, Mr. Guy. No, you don't hesitate a lot on these. You've got very strong opinions about it.
My nerd is strong with this one.
Yeah, that's easy.
I've got my nerd shit figured out. No, man, I grew up with Star Wars. That's part of my DNA.
Yeah. I was thinking about it when I wrote it, and I mean, same thing here. I grew up with Star Wars. It was the turning point, probably 11 or so, 12-ish. Yeah. And the other thing the problem I've had with Star Trek is that it's a great concept that I don't think has ever been truly realized.
Well, I think the issue I have with Star Trek and the issue I have with a lot of sci-fi, that it's kind of got this, there's no grit to it, there's no dirt to it, it's too clean, it's too sort of...
antiseptic,
Yeah, it doesn't really feel right. It just feels too
perfect.
Clear-cut, too perfect,
Mm-hmm.
in a way. And I've always had an issue with that. Like, I like my sci-fi like gritty or grandiose in a way that Star Wars kind of. I suppose that is a result of me growing up with Star Wars. It's like since I was a kid, that's my definition of what sci-fi should be.
Right. It formed your mental picture of what what you should expect. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of us that are a bit older now that grew up with Star Wars, that like when the parts 1, 2, 3 came out, were so disappointed because it was beginning to go the same direction. It was being cleaned up. It was felt more sort of sterile,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
No, I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Like my ideals for science fiction are The Empire Strikes Back and Aliens 2.
Yeah.
Like if anybody made a movie that's a perfect combination of those two, that would be perfect.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm hoping that may be what we're getting with Rogue One. I'm very excited about these stories that are outside of the normal trilogy and the Skywalker story.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I mean, that was that. So that was easy, right? Painless.
Yeah, that was pretty painless. The only hard question was the one with
Mimic and Guard. I thought that was going to be an easy one.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking about it the whole time, and Guard's a man he'll understand. But right. Shauna's so sweet. I could never let her die. That just doesn't go.
No. I would never be able to live with myself.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean,
yeah.
Guard's a tough boy. He knows what's up.
Right. He knows why. He knows which side of the bread the butter's on, right? So
yeah. Guard's amazing, by the way. I had an amazing conversation with him. Not last time I met him, the time before that I met him in Nottingham for Event.
Oh, right, yeah.
We ended up talking about jiu-jitsu for half an hour.
That's awesome.
That's a fun conversation. You don't expect to be able to talk about jiu-jitsu at an
Eve event, right?
Eve meet. But there he was.
Yeah, there it is. That's awesome. Yeah. So, so let's talk a little bit about your art, and I'm sure people are, no one might be interested, but we're going to do it anyway. So it's my podcast. I can talk about whatever I want. So yeah. What is what are some of your goals with it and stuff, and what are you up to?
Well, I didn't have any goals. The only thing I wanted to do is I wanted to take. I mean, Niden is a character that I made up,
right?
And since I like making these kinds of things, I'm a creative person. I kind of naturally extended outside of the client. I wanted to take her out to the client and make stuff.
Make her a person.
Make her, well, make her a person, yes, but I take this creation that's come up in my head and been with me for so many years of my life that I want to do other things with it as well. So I've been making artwork, Niden artwork for a long time.
Have you do that sort of thing in real life too, or what is your real life? If you don't mind my asking, of course.
No, at all. So I've been working in IT for most of my professional career.
Right.
But it's been a lot in marketing, everything from coding to marketing, and in the marketing side of things, there's lots of that work has revolved around graphics.
Okay.
In one way or another. So
right.
It's not foreign to me. It's all professionally either.
So you've been exposed to it a lot over your career in real life. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
I've been a junkie of drawing and illustrating since I could hold a pen, more or less. So.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't think of it as anything other than just the way things are. It's all I do. So, when I was, I have on my 10 questions page here, I have 4 doodles already. So I've been doodling while you've been talking. So,
yeah. Oh yeah, I have a question for you. What's your favorite doodle? Like, if you just let your hand go and don't think about it, what does it draw?
Well, I will answer that. It's hard to say what it is, but I have a cast of characters that live in my head and have since I was a kid. And there's these group of guys called Grolls. It's like trolls and gnomes. Grolls. They were in my journal growing up, my sketchbooks. There's a whole universe of people that live in my head, and that's typically what I doodle. Although this time I have a new group of things that I'm working on it's Eve related, but they're cartoon characters that I'm doing. I haven't gotten them to the point where I'm ready to release them yet, but I'm hopefully in the next week or two I'll probably be doing some of that. I've come up with almost like if the genesis of the thought was, what if Eve was a kid's cartoon? Right? So what would that look like? So I've kind of been doodling and sketching and working on that off and on for the last month or so, and I'm getting pretty close to being able to release a little bit of it anyway. And so I'm very excited about that one. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. In any one time, I have 30, 40, 50 things going on concurrently in my head and on things. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. I don't publish all the stuff that I do because there's just a large amount of it. But,
I know how much you actually get up to. I mean, there's only like the tip of the iceberg that most people see out there. I've seen, and I can imagine there's a lot of stuff that even I haven't seen that you work on all the time. You're just a creative machine.
Yeah, but it's just people think that's weird, but it's just the way I've been since I can remember. It's been since I was 10, 11 years old, whatever. Yeah. And maybe Star Wars had something to do with that as well. The thing that fascinated me about it was, if you remember back in the day, there were magazines like Starlog and Cinema Fescue and a bunch of others, and the behind the scenes things where the guys were painting the matte paintings and doing the concept arting and all that stuff always just fascinated the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. I don't know why even now that I didn't just go into that field when I was younger. So, but I always had a great deal of respect for that sort of art, the coming up with things out of nowhere.
Yeah,
the Sid Meads, the Rod Cobbs, the Ellswoods, those guys and ladies are all, heroes. People who, Ralph McQuarrie. I mean, he, as an artist, he created all that visually. It wasn't Lucas so much. He came up with the concepts, but Ralph McQuarrie is the artist who put the look, that dirty, gritty thing that we were talking about. That all comes from that. So, it's a fascinating process, and
that aspect of it, I think it was a stroke of genius that really struck home with so many people. Just the look and feel of Star Wars, which was kind of recaptured now with the new movie. You could see that it was clear they were trying to get back to that same look.
Yeah, you think about film fascinates me as well, and I I do a lot of that in video work and stuff too. But one of the things I've always is the growth of that sort of geek nerd culture, which we've just recently, within the last 20 years, really sort of become aware of, but it's always been there. When you think of film, the first guys who were involved in it, the Edisons and the Luminaires and those guys, they were all technicians and IT guys in a way. They came at it as very, technical and as the industry grew, and this is true of pretty much all industries really, that there's a culture that develops around it. And those guys are the ones that sort of feed the next generation. And the movie making industry never really relied on artists and designers and industrial architects and things. They were all like set guys. They would do a sketch for how the Roman palace is going to look in Spartacus, but they were set designers. Yeah. And then somewhere around the 70s, the people who grew up on film of the 50s became adults.
Yeah.
And they were the ones that were like, hey, I really like this. I'm not a director or anything, but I'm an artist and I would like to draw, and design the movies, and that was the wave, that first wave that resulted in, the kind of the outpouring of creativity that resulted in Star Wars, that resulted in a lot of those blockbusters. And we're seeing that now with the Marvel movies. Those people who grew up on comic books in the 80s are now in charge of studios and stuff. And they're the ones saying, I remember growing up in the 80s and the early 90s during the comic book boom, and I want to bring those stories. And they're very passionate and caring, and there's a huge amount of creativity involved in bringing those which is why they're working so well now. And I hope that we're seeing a resurgence on the science fiction side too, because I feel like we've been way underserved because of in a sad way, and I'm talking way too much here, but in a sad way, I think we've been underserved by Star Wars and Star Trek because they've dominated that genre for so long. The science fiction side of things. Yeah.
No, I agree. I see your point.
But I would like to see that change.
Here's the interesting question: would EVE Online exist if there was no Star Wars?
Nope.
No.
Yeah. Or Star Trek either. I mean, whichever side of that coin you come from. I mean, and I know you and I agree on Star Wars, but other people feel very strongly about the other side, but it doesn't matter as far as love of spaceships, right?
Well, it's not. Yeah, love of spaceships, but sort of a love for something that's larger than life, something that's just, I don't know, I really have to put my finger on it, something that's, no, it's really difficult for me. I don't have the language capacity to explain what it is, but that pull, that thing that makes you want to explore that kind of the idea of science fiction, why that is so interesting. I don't really know why.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's a primal thing. I think the need to grab something and spin around and go vroom vroom and pew pew, and it's just something cool about that doesn't go away. I suppose
if you really dig into the driver for it, like what makes a person want to push into the unknown in that way, I think it's got to be tied to survival, like the survival instinct. The same, like I believe the two basic instincts that drive a human being are survival and reproduction.
Absolutely.
And a key way of survival is having the edge on somebody else, and exploring is a natural part of being a human being. You're going out into the unknown, and this is sort of a way for us, like dreamers and nerds, to push that frontier without actually, getting out there into space or climbing a mountain or doing something really dangerous. It's accessible.
Exactly. And it's also a sort of way to try and shape what that future might be. I think that's part of it too, is survival of the species, which all really comes down to reproduction, really. I mean, we want to reproduce, but we also want to make sure that, to ensure that after we're gone, that the species is still moving in the right direction in order to preserve our DNA, right? I mean, I guess that's what it all really comes down to. And science fiction, as opposed to fantasy, right, which is I mean, I know this is probably too black and white for most people, but I've always seen it as fantasy is looking back and science fiction is looking forward. And that's, there's arguments to be made on that, but as simplistic as you can look at it. And, but I think that's why, hopers and dreamers and people who, wish the best, optimists, are more driven towards that sort of thing, even in a dystopian way. Mm-hmm. Because I don't see that because dystopian to me, a lot of people think of as negative, but I see it as positive because something horrible's happened and now we need to survive. Right. Yeah. So it's still a positive look at the future. Whereas medieval fantasy and things are looking back, and I don't mean to say that they're negative. It's just that that's just the way it is. But
yeah, well, it is a looking backwards, and it's sort of less anchored in reality. It's more of a sense of dreaming about something that isn't real, but also maybe a love of history and what came before, maybe.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. There's very passionate things there, but that there's people, and I'm sure you have them in your life too, who are the best times are behind us. We're never going to be like we were in the 50s or whatever. And then there are people who are, the best times are ahead of us.
Well, the best times are right now, right?
The only time is right now. Right.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah. Everything else doesn't exist, as far as I know. Yeah.
Oh, we got really esoteric there really quickly.
I know, right? Well, I didn't intend for that to happen, but there it is. So I really...
I think that's the thing I like about this show that you do here is that, like on all the other podcasts, it's either very really shallow and shitty, right, or it kind of it sticks to certain talking points and then moves on, which is all fine. But I think having a sort of a loose idea about what the show is with this one, I think that can lead to some very interesting discussions.
Well, I know that it was a challenge for you and some other people at the beginning because it was like, well, where the hell is Rixx going with this? But I've always been a big fan of podcasts, and I've listened to a lot of them, especially back in the day when I used to commute a lot. When I don't do that as much now, so I don't listen as much. But and I think everybody else is doing a great job. I'm not going to criticize anybody, but I didn't want to just do that. I mean, why, I've never been that. I don't make the same kind of videos that other people make. I don't make the same kind of art that other people make. I don't write the same kind of blog posts that other people write. I don't because I could, but I have no interest in doing that. Somebody else is already doing it. And I didn't want to make the same kind of, and this is why I hesitated from making a podcast. I've been thinking about it for years, and, I just never could really come up with a hook or an angle. And it just hit me one day. Why not? That was Marc Maron's podcast, actually. My wife and I were fortunate enough to go see him in concert a year or so ago. And it hit me then that, you know what? I mean, that's just what he does. His podcast is just about comedians and talking about shit and shooting the shit. He doesn't really have an agenda all the time. And why not bring something like that to Eve? And just talk to interesting people and have interesting conversations, and not so much about, game mechanics and how do we fit the mid slots of an executor and, all those things, which are fine, but I don't really have any interest in that.
But it still has to be like, there's craft to it as well. It still has to be done well. It still has to be managed in a certain way. But you have like, shows like Podside, which would half of the time would just airband out into a waste of everybody's time. Holy shit, it's so fucking boring. You just want to kill yourself.
Right.
I mean, so there is something to be said for doing it well as well, just not just letting go completely, but sort of, having it a bit more loose in structure, but also doing that properly in a way.
Well, I hope I'm doing it. I'm learning a lot as I go along, and hopefully I'm getting better at it every time. But I think that the difference, and I'm just speaking for myself, is that I'm very passionate about people. I am a supporter of people, and I always have been, especially talented, creative people. I'm not one of those who has an ego that I need to be the top dog or anything. I would want everyone around me to be great, and it's one of the reasons why I started doing some of the things that I'm doing now and sharing some of that because, I want to, everyone around me to be awesome, and I find it fascinating. So, and if it's only the podcast is only for me to meet really cool people and talk to them, then I'm happy. Whether it finds an audience or not, I don't really care.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean that's the main thing. That's the most important thing. Doing something you believe in or are passionate about, and if that is there, if that aspect of it is there, it's going to communicate to somebody else. Somebody else is going to be picking up on that vibe and really be getting something valuable out of it. If that means that 95% of people are going to think it's shit, but 5% are really going to be into it, I think that's a more important podcast to be out there than the one that like 95% of people like, but sort of don't really. There's nothing special.
They're not getting anything out of it. And I think that one of the things that drives me is the thought of I want something to come out of this. I've put, and I know you've put a lot of time and effort into this as well, and everyone I talk to has. And I think that's one of the things that drives all of us is that, this is a game, obviously. We're all enjoying it. But I want something else to come out of it. I'm not going to be happy if Eve goes away and we all just go our separate ways. I think that, I would like to have friendships and communities and networks and things to survive that. And I don't know what that means or whatever, but this has got to be worth something more than just us all getting together and playing a video game.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's like that, the very statement when somebody tells me that Eve is a game.
Right.
It just sounds wrong. I mean, it's not really, is it? Eve, like the mechanic. Okay, it's a bunch of mechanics somebody put together, and it's on a screen and it's online. But that's about as far as like the game aspect of it goes. It's so much more than that. And I think one of the things is that we've spent so much time of our lives poured into this community and this game, and like the things we do together that. It's sort of got to mean something else too. It can't just be that. I'm going to quit Eve tomorrow and I'll just move on with my life. Well, no. I mean, I've been around for 11 years. It's a huge chunk of my life. A lot of people I know are through Eve.
Yeah. I mean, could you even do that? Can you imagine? I could not do it. I could not just quit tomorrow and walk away. I have 600 and some people in my alliance, most of whom I, talk to on a regular basis, especially now with Slack and everything. And then I have you and all the people I know, Nash and and the Twitters and, there's a huge impetus of community, and I could not just quit and walk away. No, I mean,
me neither, really.
Nor do I want to,
I could, technically I could do it, of course, and besides Eve, I have a regular functioning life that that does not require Eve to function. And
no.
I could be spending my time watching TV shows instead.
Right.
My spare time doing those things. But there are no people on the other side of that TV show. Like nobody from Game of Thrones is going to sit down and have a fucking chat with me about this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
That show is just going to finish and nothing's going to happen,
Right.
Whereas in Eve, I have personal connections. There's a social aspect to it that I'm not getting from these other things, and I'm not getting it from other games either. Like there isn't that history. I can't walk into another game and talk about, holy shit, do you remember like the war between Bob and Goons?
Right. No, there's no history there. Right. Yeah. Or just bump into some guy who, this just happened to me a couple weeks ago. Bump into someone you haven't seen, quote unquote, for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Somebody who just pops into Eve all of a sudden from 8 years ago and is like, well, hey, remember? Oh my God, that's crazy, and I can't imagine that existing anywhere else in any other type of environment. And it is more than a game. It's more than that. And of course, I have a real life too. I have kids. I have responsibilities. I have a wife, and I could just the game part I could walk away from, I guess. But I don't really have any desire to. But
I think this is a reason why Eve players are often quite sensitive about changes. They're quite worried about when they think that CCP are making a wrong turn, because it affects them personally. If they believe that this change is bad for Eve, I believe that this change is bad for Eve and it's going to have a detrimental effect. And that means that that leads towards Eve going away. It's such a huge chunk of my life. It becomes. Maybe that's overstating it, but
no, I think
more existential than say somebody's gonna they're making changes to fucking
Burnout 4 or something, right?
Yeah,
I mean, who cares?
Battlefield or whatever.
Right,
okay?
right.
Well, I don't care. I'll just stop playing it. Fine.
I'm not picking up the new Call of Duty because it's in space. Okay. There was that big hubbub about Battlefield and Call of Duty, right? And Battlefield's going to World War I, and Call of Duty's going into space, and people were all upset and up in arms. I just won't pick that one up.
Yeah. It's not really the same. It's not even the same kind of discussion. You realize that when you sit down with a bunch of gamers, start talking about, okay, what game do you play? And you start talking about Eve, you realize that much of the things sort of that I value and talk about in Eve, these people don't ever experience. This isn't the same kind of discussion. We're not living in the same kind of world.
No, and game mechanics are important, obviously, but they're not the driver. And but I think you hit on something very important there, and I think that it's always in the back of every Eve player's head that there might come a day when it's all gone. And I think that's a worrisome thing for most of us. And anytime things start to feel like they're going in that direction, remember the way things were right before Siegel took over, and that the subscriber numbers are going down, and all the charts kept coming out, right, and the concurrent users and all that. I mean, we don't really have that now. Nobody's putting up charts about that stuff as much because we're living in this world of positivity now. Things are happening quickly and moving, and so
I'm just really curious about, like, we had this super high now with the war, which had everybody involved in one way or another. I mean,
right. Where are they going to stay?
Somehow everybody who's ever shot anybody in Eve was somehow involved, and even for people don't shoot people where work in the industry side of it or the economics or
sure, yeah. Vast swaths were involved. Absolutely.
A lot of Eve's players were involved, and there was this massive surge of activity. Now we're sort of that kind of petered out, and we're landing in the yearly summer sort of slump, which we're in kind of now.
Yep. And the doldrums.
It's a kind of a time of change. A lot of, like, the chips get thrown in the air, and then come like in a couple of months they'll land somewhere, and it'll be interesting to see, like, what Eve actually looks like when we get rolling and when things start going again.
So that brings up the last thing here. I mean, where are we going? Are we getting new space? Are we going to be able to build our own Stargates? I mean, what is the point of all that? And where are we going next? I mean, what is next? What's the big thing? I don't know.
I don't know, and the reason I don't really know isn't. I mean, first of all, I don't know the details of the roadmap. But
no, of course not.
Another thing I really don't know at this point is how players will use the tools. Like, the tools are one thing, the possibilities are one thing, but not even CCP knows what players will do with these things. Like, if I give you a hammer,
right.
You can't ask me the question. If I give somebody a hammer and you can't ask me the question, what will happen now that he has a hammer?
Right.
Well, he might build a house, or he might kill somebody. I don't know.
Right. No, it's like the Citadels, right? I mean, who knew that somebody was going to build one right next to a gate and use it as a, the way they ended up using some of those, and they had to change the rules about that. So yeah.
Everybody. The one thing that people knew when Citadels were coming is that people were going to use them in ways that nobody knew about yet.
Right.
That was the one thing we all understood.
Yep, that's Eve players for you.
Yeah, which is the crazy and cool and wonderful thing about Eve, is that it's so creative because it comes out of all of us. It doesn't come out of one or a couple of creative people at CCP that write the script, and it feels organic because it is organic, It
is. There is no pathway. There's no hidden agenda. There's no rule book or guidebook. There's no walkthrough. There's no walkthrough videos for Eve. There's no guidebook. There's no guideposts even. I think it's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant.
That structure creates, maintains rather a creative engine, so to speak, that no other game can rival, even because it's so decentralized. It's not in CCP's hands. It's in all of our hands, which makes it the most powerful creative engine in gaming. Really, I
yeah. No, I mean, SCCP's really just custodians, and they're just there to custodian it. Keep it clean, to sweep up the dust bunnies, and to build a new edition every once in a while, and keep us interested. And that's really that's pretty unique, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, speaking more technically, I think that the Stargates thing are an interesting tool because it allows people to come together. Obviously, not just to sing Kumbaya, but also come together and provide content for each other. And gates also mean that as from a technical standpoint, you can manage them from CCP's point of view. You can manage them and allow certain types of ships, use mass or whatever it's going to be, to control what kind of movements you can make across the map. So we don't have the old world of I can swing my giant capital dick all over the universe to come and kill you just because you undock T1 battleships 64 jumps away from me.
Right.
It's a much more controllable, I think, system. But on the other hand, then again, we don't know players. Players will, of course, break it in all kinds of ways.
Absolutely.
We don't know how that's going to look.
No. So
it is very much. Going back to what we were talking about, it is very much the frontier of gaming. As it's got that same feeling to it as space has. The thing that interests us about space is it's the unknown. It's something we don't know about. So whatever can happen, it's the possibilities are virtually endless. We can dream about what we can find in space, and it's the same thing with Eve. Nobody knows what we're going to find. What's it going to be in 6 months? Nobody actually knows yet.
No.
And sort of exploring that and living through that together is part of the adventure, really.
Well said. Well said. All right, I'm good. Do you have any final comments that you would like to make or anything? Or I think this is a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me on it, and you had a choice, really. But hey, you're probably going to regret the day that you said, "Why don't you come over and join Crossing Zebras?" I got to work on my saying that. It's zebra over here, but
Yeah.
I got in trouble with that last year with that video of yours. But
yeah, it wasn't a big problem.
So thanks, Niden. I appreciate it. And,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, take care, man.
Good talk. All right, you too, man.